What does it mean for Khabib? What does he do now? I mean, do you think that, this kind of kills his chances to fight Conor? Because he was the dude, in my opinion, that had the style to beat him.
Well, 1,000,000% it kills his opportunity to fight Conor, and I'll tell you why. And it actually puts the UFC in a very difficult position because Tony Ferguson versus Khabib was going to be an amazing fight. And honestly, I don't know who was going to win that. It's one of those fights I don't know. With the wrestling of Khabib, you kind of got to lean to him. But props to Eddie Bravo. Tony was working closely with Eddie, and I could have seen a submission from Tony. So I honestly don't know who would have won that. But I will tell you this: there's no way. I mean, obviously it hurts the UFC short term because the fight never happened, and that had to have affected pay-per-view sales, unfortunately. But there's no way now down the line that Conor is ever going to accept a fight with Khabib. If they make that rematch with Khabib and Tony, and Khabib wins, there's no way Conor's going to accept that because he's going to say, I'm not taking the risk of having an entire fight camp for him not to make it to the octagon. So I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing is, I almost feel like Conor's the type of athlete where you don't want to give him more time. I feel like Conor's just going to keep on getting better. He seems to be progressing more and more. So the more time you give him to work on the ground game, the more time you give him to work on wrestling, I feel like it's just now's the time. Kind of watching.
视频前的你，如果在男性持久力、勃起硬度等方面不满意，现在就加郭老师微信358163379，让郭老师帮助你持久坚挺。延时20到40分钟，补肾壮阳，延时助勃，增强夫妻性生活。28天彻底告别快男软男，做回自信的自己。记住微信358163379。
Swinging like crazy.
I sent you a picture on Facebook.
Pardon me?
I sent you a picture on Facebook of Hunt's leg.
Oh, dude, I know. I mean, those oblique kicks that Overeem were landing, they were nasty, man. They were very, very nasty. Hey, let's have a look. Hunt suffers broken. Whoa. MMA Mania. Who goes to MMA Mania, Lewis? What the hell? Do not ever send me a link to MMA Mania ever again. Old War. I mean, there you go. That's a prime example of the shitty, I say that with a capital SH, shitty MMA media that is out there. They suck. Old Warhorse Mark Hunt suffers broken tibia during knockout loss to Alistair Overeem. Yeah, but then I saw a story that his tibia wasn't broken.
But look at his leg. I don't care if his tibia is broken. It looked like he was attacked by a serial killer.
Yeah, I know. It's a nasty injury, but that is we ain't playing, boys and girls. I mean, it's a tough business. That's what I'm saying. All these people, I'm just happy to be here. Yeah, but wait till you get the shit kicked out of you and you wake up in a hospital and you're black and blue and your face is covered in stitches. Let's see how happy you are to be there then. This isn't a sport that people can pick up and play and this and that. And everyone thinks it looks so cool because when you sit there in the crowd and you're watching and somebody comes out and the music's on, they look like rock stars and they go out and they beat someone up and you think, wow, I want to do that. This looks really cool. I'm going to tell everyone I can do it. And then they get in there and they get fucking mutilated and beat to fuck and they lose their brain cells. Yeah, real happy to be there.
Yeah.
Real happy to be there. Anyway, that was a great fight. Overeem, thingy bob. Overeem and Hunt, great fight. Shame Mark Hunt got knocked out like that. It was vicious, man. I heard the sound of that knee to the dome. Jeez, and he fell pretty hard. So get well, Mark Hunt. Now, main event. Well, sorry, the co-main event, by the way. Lando Venata and David Tamer. What a great fight that was. That was unbelievable. Excellent display of kickboxing on both sides. Tamer deserved the decision, and good for him. But yeah, that was a great fight. But yeah, the main event. Oh, dude. Well, you start, Lewis. Main event.
Well, here's the thing, right? What am I supposed to say? Rogan got in there and he's like, oh, I don't know why the fans are booing. And I'm not one of these guys that would ever boo. Like, I respect the fact that two guys are going to get in there, fight for 25 minutes. I'm a huge fan. I'm a fan of both of those guys, actually. So I would never boo them. But call a spade a spade. It wasn't a super, aesthetically appealing fight. It lacked a lot of action. The first two rounds were particularly lackluster. And I know, dude, you're in there against these super high-level, fast-switch muscle, athletes that can knock your head off at any moment. You got to take your time. But I kind of understand to the casual UFC fan that's, used to people getting knocked the fuck out, why this is something that's like, okay, come on, I'm not a kickboxing coach. I'm not watching it like a chess match. So I know why Rogan as a martial artist loved it. But as a fan, I was just kind of going like, come on, fucking start throwing, and Tyron just wouldn't, let his hands go. And when he did finally, he did real damage.
Yeah, well, no, exactly. I'm kind of feel the same way as you. I mean, I don't want to criticize either of these guys. I mean, I respect both of them. Wonderboy's an incredible fighter, and so is Tyron. And it was one of those fights. It was so closely contested, and they had so much respect for each other that neither pulled the trigger. And I'll tell you why the reason that was. It's because the last fight that they had was against each other, and it was a draw. Now, if that rematch didn't happen straight away, they both went away and knocked out a couple of people or were successful in whichever way, shape, or form, then that fight could have been a bit different. But the last time they stepped in an octagon was against each other, and it went to a draw, and that was the last memories they have of fighting. And it was so close, the first one, that neither wanted to pull the trigger. Now, I understand why the fight happened like that. And as you said, call a spade a spade. Was it the most exciting fight? No, it wasn't. It was a little disappointing. The crowd were booing like crazy, as you said. I'd never boo. I wasn't booing, but I was actively, hoping for more action. I wish there could have been more action. Tyron landed a good shot and dropped him in the third round. And it almost looked like he could have finished, sorry, not the third round, the fifth round. And it looked like he could have finished him as well. So that was the biggest moment in the fight. But yeah, it was disappointing. I mean, Tyron said afterwards, yeah, well, Dana White should try getting in there and fighting Wonderboy. And then I saw somebody wrote, that's bad advice. That's like saying you don't have to take heroin to know heroin's bad for you, meaning we're allowed an opinion. And I agree. We are allowed an opinion, and it wasn't the best fight. And fights can be strategic, and fights can be tactical, and fights can be boring. That fight was a bit on the boring side, but I understand why. It's not that these guys suck as fighters. That's not the deal here. They're both incredibly, amazingly talented fighters, but the respect they had for one another, they both knew that one wrong move could signify the end of the fight or put them in a terrible position where they would lose the fight. And therefore, they were just so tentative.
Yeah. And look, it ended up being, it wasn't, by any means, it wasn't a boring fight. It just wasn't what you expected considering how good their last fight was. You know what's funny? I ended up scoring it, and maybe it was just because I'm a fan of the drama and the story. I scored it a draw. Thinking back, it was at a 10-8 round. Compare with the way that MMA scoring works, nobody would have ever given Tyron a 10-8 for knocking down Wonderboy at the end of that round. But my theory on scoring is we have 4 other rounds to compute what a 10-9 is. Okay, if the first round was a 10-9 and it was super close, it was that close, razor close, then if somebody gets knocked down, dropped twice in the 5th round, doesn't that mean it's that much more valuable and that much more dominant of a round? If every round was kind of back and forth and there was a lot of action, I would say, yeah, of course. But I don't know. I kind of have that theory, and I think that's a major problem with scoring is that they don't make enough differentiations between, a 10-9 and a 10-8.
Yeah.
But if they would have scored a draw, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. They would have scored it. It was so close across the board. They could have scored it either way, and I wouldn't have had a problem with it. But Tyron, who's been going on a tirade, see what I did there?
I like it.
Yeah. I almost got to say, dude, you got to fucking go out and start dominating dudes. If you're going to be that dude who complains about everything that you're not getting, you have to go out and start dominating people. You have to go out there and hit the mic every time you do it and be that guy who everyone's going, oh shit, Tyron's on the microphone. Yeah. And he just doesn't seem to be doing that.
No, he doesn't. But you're right. I almost thought that the fight was going to be scored a draw because the first referee said whatever it was, for Tyron. And then it said the second judge scores it a draw. And then I thought, wow, well, if the third judge gives it to Wonderboy, then we've got another draw in our hands, which would have been hilarious at best. That would have just been so typical. And I guess the fight was a draw because Tyron, it was 3 rounds to Wonderboy. Tyron won one round, the one where he got the takedown. And then in the 5th, if you give that round a 10-8 to Tyron, then I guess that makes it a draw. Going back to what you just said, I just don't think this is going to help him because, he is a guy that has a chip on his shoulder that seems to think, he's throwing, he's saying remarks like there's racism in MMA and things like that, and the fans don't get behind him, unfortunately for him. And it isn't anything that he's really doing. As I say, I understand why that fight was a little lackluster. because it was very strategic. The technique and the ability of both of those guys means you have to respect one another. It's as simple as that. But now, it's just going to make him even less of a fan favorite, if you will. So yeah, it kind of sucks for him because he's in a real difficult position, very difficult position.
Yeah. Look, Tyron's great, very exciting. We're gonna wrap up here in just a second. But obviously, in other news, really quick from 209, your boy Rashad lost.
Yeah.
Not a great performance. I think Rashad looks good at 185. You know better than me.
Yeah, it's a shame because listen, I love Rashad. Rashad is a great guy. Rashad is one of the nicest people in this sport, in my opinion. Thoughts on the fight? So he's fighting Daniel Kelly. I would assume that was a fight he was supposed to win. He should have won. But I'll tell you, Daniel Kelly looked good. I mean, he doesn't look good from the outside, but if you watch him closely, he's very effective at what he does. Obviously, he's got that judo background, Olympic-level judo, so he's hard to take down because he's going to have a very, very good core, a very good base. So that nullifies some of Rashad's wrestling. And he's very thick, so he looks like he'd be very strong. His striking, again, doesn't look very good, but he's surprisingly effective. So the problem for Rashad is that it was a fight that he was supposed to win. And because he lost, it makes now we're going to see talk of Rashad should retire. Got to remember, Daniel Kelly is 5-1 inside the UFC. In fact, now he's 6-1, so he's doing something right. And does it mean that all those 6 people should retire? Because that's what they're saying about Rashad. Well, I'm seeing things online that Rashad should retire. I don't think he should. I think he looked good in that fight. I think I've seen him look better, but I don't think he didn't look his best, but he didn't look terrible. He looked decent. That was one of the better fights of the night. I thought he looked a little too small. I thought he looked a little too slim. I think maybe him going down to 185, he's doing what I initially did. When I first went down to 185, I pretty much dieted all the way down to 185. It was only after a year or two or several fights that I started cutting weight the night before from 200 pounds. So maybe he looked a little light. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But listen, looking at that fight, I think Rashad still has a lot of gas left in the tank. He's still got the will to win. And Daniel Kelly is a tough son of a bitch.